right now. Today is the day that you choose to change the rest of your life. It is time to turn your setback into the greatest comeback story ever told, and nobody is more capable than you. Friday! This is the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast, the future #1 weight loss podcast in the world. I am your host, Donato Russo. I hope you enjoy the show today. If this is your first time here and you enjoy the show, please subscribe and spread the word of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast wherever you are and to whomever will listen. If you'd like to connect on social media or wherever else, check out my Linktree page, Linktree/the Ranting Weight Watcher. Let's connect today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 199 of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you to the show. If you enjoy it, please consider subscribing. If the app that you're using to listen to the show allows you to write a review or rate the show, please consider writing a review and leaving a 4-star or 5-star rating. Doing this will promote the podcast growth by updating an algorithm, which in turn will make it easier for anyone else looking for a weight loss or related podcast that is using the same app as you. One of the best things you could do to support this podcast is to literally tell anyone you know that is in the same position we are all in, trying to live a healthy life. Tell them about the show. Show them how to find it. I want to give a special thanks to all of the financial supporters of the podcast. Thank you so much for considering the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast a worthy investment of your hard-earned money. If you are interested in becoming a financial supporter of this podcast, there is a Linktree link in the description of every podcast episode. When you click it, you will be taken to a website where you will see a button that says Become a Financial Supporter. Click that button and you will be given the options available so that you can choose from there. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into this! Journey updates. I am up 4.2 pounds this week. You know, it's these kind of weigh-ins that make me scratch my head. But if I look at the entirety of my journey, this has happened so many times. It's almost like it's just part of the journey. A random almost 5-pound weight gain or even 5 or 6 pound weight gain just comes out of nowhere every few months or so, whatever it is. Look, it's the first gain of 3, and all I could do is keep going. If I get a trend out of this, I will certainly make changes. Total loss since January 2019 is 176.6 pounds. Total pounds remaining to get to the 200-pound milestone is 23.4 pounds. So I had something in mind that I was going to talk to you guys about this week. I had been saving it for a few weeks now. But as I sit here ready to record, I feel like I need to talk about something else. You know, there's this saying that kind of goes around, whether it's in just WW, I'm not sure, and that saying is, it's all weight related. When you go into workshops, you'll hear people tell stories that they feel are victories in their new lifestyle because they wouldn't have done those things before. And if I look back on the history of this podcast over the past few years here, I can definitely point at some really valuable moments that I didn't necessarily know about myself in the process. The stories involved in them literally have nothing to do with the journey. But because of what was gone through in that moment, the feelings in that moment can easily come up in the journey. Anxiety, fear, all of these things happen for numerous different reasons in life. So when they happen for a different reason, and then you overcome that, when it introduces itself somewhere else, you could make a direct connection and say, well, if I did it here, why can't I do it there? One of the most valuable things I would say that have come from this, the last 5.5 years of my life, is my ability to do something even though I'm afraid to do it, or I don't think I can. To just simply do it just because it needs to be done, regardless of how I feel. And I'm speaking to emotions that have really very little to do with the journey. Anxiety, fear. When things give you anxiety, or you're afraid to do something, there could be a million reasons you're afraid to do it. You're afraid to fail. You're afraid to succeed. You're afraid you might not like it. You're afraid that you might like it and just are no good at it. You see, sometimes the fantasy of what could be is good enough just to keep. It's a nice thought. But at some point, do you want to be the person that looks back on their life and says, man, I tried that and I gave it my all and it worked out, or it just didn't work out? Or do you want to be the person that looks back on your life and says, I wish I would have tried? Last week, I talked to you guys about betting on yourself and believing in yourself, even though the people around you may not believe in you, even though you don't necessarily believe that you can do it, but just to give it a shot. Because without taking the shot, you can't miss. And if you don't miss, you don't know how to adjust. And if you don't know how to adjust, you'll never actually get there. This idea is not just weight related, it literally applies to anything. A few weeks back, I talked about finding a new source of happiness, finding a new way that you can become happy, a passion, a calling, whatever that might be, and have it nothing to do with food. Because I said that at some point we steered our lives in the wrong direction. We went from working hard to enable ourselves to pursue happiness to finding our happiness in an addiction to food and whatever else. We have become so enabled to eat whatever we want because the people that are sending the message have a direct line of benefit from you trying it. The same way cigarette companies had a direct benefit of you becoming addicted to cigarettes, the food companies have a direct benefit of you becoming addicted to food. And they have an even bigger benefit from you believing you are not actually addicted to food. Courage is a quality that it just has to be demanded. You can't learn to be courageous. You just are faced with moments where you must be courageous, and you make the choice in the moment to either be courageous or not. The one time I took a risk and bet on myself was the medical diagnosis I received last year. If not for all the other times I bet on myself it would have been a lot harder to bet on myself in that moment. But this spreads throughout life. This is not just health related. We all have things that we are afraid to do. Things that we maybe know we can do if we just give it a shot and do what needs to be done. We have the possibility of achieving it. One of the biggest obstacles when it comes to doing the uncomfortable things in life is actually taking the action that will start the process. And it's a lot because of the things I said earlier. You're afraid to fail. You're afraid to succeed. You're afraid you might try it and not like it. All of these things are normal. It's human to feel the emotions involved when it comes to doing the things that are uncomfortable. There's all kinds of nervousness, anxiety, fear. I recently, not too long ago, if you've guys been listening to me, you know that I became a certified trainer of the new software at my work. In that process, when we upgraded our systems to go to that software, it was my job at that time to train all of my colleagues. I told on previous podcasts that when I was going through to even become certified, that fear was the fear of reading aloud. So I faced a fear in that course of pursuing something. And here today, I sit the day before something that it has become extremely important to me. You see, in the process of training everyone and doing all of this stuff in the transition to upgrade to the new software, I went from constantly training people, discovering I loved it, and then getting to a point where I was not necessarily needed anymore. And now I train periodically, once every 2 weeks, to any employee that joins the organization. I mean, it's nice to do it once every 2 weeks. But that day that I discovered how much I loved it, it was the first time in my time in this job, in this organization, that I felt like I was doing something I was good at. And it became a goal to become a trainer full time. Not this as needed thing. I wanted to be a trainer full time. In October of 2022, a full-time position had become available. I applied for it. I never even got a call back. Never got a response whatsoever from that application. It was such a big deal to me to even apply for that position at the time. I just couldn't fathom not receiving a correspondence whatsoever, but I never did. When I look back on that time, I could see in hindsight that I didn't necessarily take it seriously. I thought that because I was already a certified trainer, it would be a no-brainer. I didn't need to update a resume and all these things. I work for the company already. I'm already a trainer. It should be a no-brainer. I didn't take it seriously. I didn't take the opportunity seriously. I just went through the motions and counted on the fact that I had a piece of paper saying I was certified. Just recently, I want to say right before the 4th of July, the position became available again. And it was announced. So I decided to apply again. But this time, as I was about to apply, I said, do I really want to do the same thing I did last time? Or do I want to do the right thing and act as if this was an application to any organization I wasn't a part of yet. To take it seriously and do everything necessary to obtain the job. I decided that I would go all in. I updated my resume. I did all of the things I would have done should I apply for any other job in any other company. When I did this, some time had passed. I thought that I wasn't going to be a candidate again because I thought it was a long time. But when you count for the fact that the 4th of July fell right in the middle of it, maybe people were on vacation. It took a couple of weeks to get a response, but I did. And that first response was a screening call that just to let me know I was a potential candidate, and they wanted to talk to me a little bit. It was like a 15-minute phone call with one person. And they said if I made that cut, that I would get an interview with a number of people. I got that phone call. I got the interview. The day came of the interview, and I was extremely nervous, had anxiety. I had the interview. I feel like it went well. But let me tell you, the people interviewing me had tremendous poker faces. I wasn't sure what to think. A few days had passed, and I got a message to schedule the final round of interview. So the first was a screening call. The second was an interview, a formal interview with 4 people. And the third would be a presentation in front of a panel to essentially teach them something. I had done this before when I was getting certified to be the trainer. I had made a lot of assumptions. We're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. I now present to you the Ranting Weight Watcher Accountability Creed. If you choose this day to say this creed, you are accountable to me, the author. You are also accountable to all of those before you who have taken the creed, and all of those after you who will take the creed. But most of all, you are accountable to yourself. Now recite with me the Accountability Creed. Nothing can stand in my way because I choose to be unstoppable. My challenges crumble in my presence because I choose strength when I am weak. My insecurities have no power over my life because I choose confidence in the face of fear. I own every last one of my mistakes because I choose growth over mediocrity. The mirror and the scale are powerless because I move forward in spite of the result. Circumstances are not obstacles because I see solutions instead of problems. The demons of my past can no longer torment me because I choose to renew my mind daily. All things are possible as long as I believe, because if God is for me, who can be against me? This is the creed I declare each day. It is about what I do, not what I say. I will learn the work that needs to be done. I will never stop, even when I've won. I will work consistently, no matter the cost. I refuse to believe that all hope is lost. I will work when I want to. I will work when I don't. I will work when they are cheering. I will work when they won't. I will work when it's easy. I will work when it's hard. The atonements that I've made are made with no regard. I will work when it's cold. I will work when it's hot, because choices have consequences, justified
or not. When I think I know it all, I will start back at one, because regardless of what I think, the work is never done. And from this moment forward, when times are tough, I choose to believe that I am enough.
And we are back. Thanks for sticking with me. When I received the instructions of what I would be required to do on the day, I was surprised. It was not the same as becoming certified. See, when I became certified, they gave me material that I had to essentially go over, practice, and then teach back to them. The instructions I received this time were to develop my own training session presentation and then send them the information I developed so that they would have it on hand for the day that I would be scheduled to train them. This was last weekend on Friday afternoon that I received that. When you hear this message, it'll be a week ago that I received that email. I spent the weekend meticulously trying to create and develop a training session of something that I encounter on a regular basis as the current position I am now. I think I created a presentation that would help me be a candidate for the position, but that doesn't change the magnitude of the situation. This is the final cut. This is the dance, as anyone would say. I sit here right now speaking to you less than 24 hours from that scheduled appointment. I have a lot of anxiety. I'm extremely nervous. During the time of this wait, I had received an email saying I was no longer being considered as a candidate. It was in this moment that I realized how much I wanted this. It was in this moment that I realized how emotionally involved I was, or invested I was, to getting this position. When I received an email that said, "You're no longer being considered as a candidate," I felt like someone died. It was a dream dying in that moment. So I went through all of the normal emotions I guess you go through when you get disappointed. And it just didn't make sense. Because we had the appointment set for tomorrow at the time that I received the email. So if I was going to be cut anyway, why would they have set that appointment? It just didn't compute. It didn't make any sense to set an appointment for me to have a final interview and then send me an email that I was no longer a candidate without even having a chance at that final interview. If I had received that email after, okay, hey, it's part of the journey, right? Part of the journey is the end. But I received it without even getting a shot. And then I received a message shortly after telling me that the email was sent out in error and to disregard it, and that my appointment for August 7th at 3 p.m. is still good. The relief I felt from that message was, it was like really, it just really showed me how emotionally invested I am in attaining this new position and trying to change what I do for work on a daily basis. I also noticed that with extra anxiety, all of the spots from my autoimmune seemed to be itchier. I don't know if that's a direct correlation or it's just something I did and didn't realize it. But certainly it feels that way. But here I sit. It's August 6th, and I'm less than 24 hours away from this interview. You might be thinking, why is he talking about this? I believe that there are moments like this in everything. When things are important to you and you go all in and you do whatever it takes, that's how you know how emotionally invested you really are in that thing. And so many of those moments have happened in my quest to become healthy. That's what helped me make the connection. I had to make some pretty hard decisions in the last 5.5 years. And each time I chose the hard road. I did what the overwhelming majority of the people probably would not have done. When I received that diagnosis, I decided to change my life rather than do what the doctor told me to do. I decided to bet on myself rather than just listen to what I'm being told and get progressively worse in other ways. You have heard me so many times talk about that we are not designed to be on medication long term. And there's not a single drug on the market that has had to go through long-term testing in order to become approved for use by the FDA. We know by accident what happens to people for long-term use of particular drugs. We know what eventually happens. But instead of saying these drugs are not good enough long-term, we just say, okay, they encountered this new problem that has been added. Because of that, we will just add a new medication. And that new medication just adds a bunch of other variables. Because that same thing, that new medication was not designed for long-term use. And every single time a physician prescribes a new medication, it comes with unforeseen long-term use side effects. And I'm not even talking about the ones they know of, because those side effects that they know of are all from short-term testing. We're not talking about the degeneration of the body that can come from long-term use of anything. You see, I believe in so many ways that this earth was designed for us to be able to heal ourselves from whatever our problem is. And the biggest thing is letting go of what's causing the problems. I've told you how many times that I believe we're being lied to, left, right, and center, about the amount of damage being caused by the food that has been normalized for us to eat. And if we really looked at all of the food that is demonized, maybe we might be able to live a healthy life if we do everything the exact opposite of what we are being told. That the real health comes in real food and not something that they just tell you is real food. And not choosing things that are easy and convenient because it says the word protein on the wrapper. These are the hard decisions I'm talking about. Every single one of those moments I've ever encountered always had a night like this, where there was anxiety and nervousness about a decision I was making. And if you really think about it, all of you listening to me right now, there have been plenty of moments you have had such anxiety thinking there has something you had to simply walk away from. A real change, a real lifestyle change. Because here's the reality of life right now. We are all being taught by the FDA, by the ADA, by big food companies. We are being taught in reality how to live a death style, not a lifestyle, a death style. Because eating the way they tell you you should eat leads to unhealthy sickness, which leads to treatment that never heals you. It just subsides the sickness you are creating. And then it's followed by additional medication to counteract the additional symptoms created by the medication they put you on. And that evil cycle just continues and continues. But the root cause is never addressed. The root cause is the death style you're living. So I guess the question is, when I tell you guys each week, transition your life so that you're eating anything that's part of an animal, you're eating it. Anything that comes from an animal, you're eating it. And anything that comes from the ground, you're eating it. Everything else, either make it yourself or don't eat it. Like, for example, if you really want a cookie that bad, make them yourself from scratch. When you make a cookie from scratch, what do you know? You know every single ingredient that went into that cookie. Do not buy it from a big food distributor. Do not buy some instant crap that has been made to sit on a shelf for God knows how many years. That's what choosing life means. To go back to basics in a way that probably none of us have ever done. The last people I know to have done this are my grandparents. My grandmother used to roll the dough to make pasta. Everything she made came from scratch. It was not uncommon to walk into my grandmother's home on a Sunday morning and see the pasta drying on cookie sheets all around the house. Wherever she can find a surface to put a cookie sheet, there was pasta drying. It was not uncommon in my household. But this is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of living that we are so far from today. That's the difference between living a lifestyle and living a death style. And you know what? The lifestyle is very inconvenient. There's nothing easy about it. But it comes with a choice. A choice to bet on yourself. A choice to walk away from things eventually that are hindering you right now. And some of you can't even get to the idea that you would actually have to walk away from a lot of the foods that you eat because it's just too uncomfortable to think it. You would rather live with the poison you're ingesting than to think of life without it, to try to imagine life without it. And all I'm saying to you is, none of this work is worth it if you don't go all in. I don't care where you're at right now. If you're just starting out, if you've been in here for a while, whatever it is. Wherever you are in your journey doesn't matter. As long as the focus is becoming to transition your life to eat real food and to do away with everything that is fake. If you can do away with everything that is not real food 97% of the time, you will transform your life. If you did the hard work and started analyzing the ingredients of everything you eat, and I'm not even talking about what ingredients, I'm talking about how many ingredients. If you could just reduce, do it in stages. If at the end of the day you eat 10 items and you're eating 150 ingredients, let's cut it down 20, let's cut it down 30. What can we substitute in the things that you eat that would bring it from 150 down to 125? And you do that for however many weeks. And then you make another transition to go from 125 to 100 and make the substitutions necessary for whatever food has to go. We have to stop living with the drugs that have been provided us. We need to stop living the death style and start really doing what's necessary to live a lifestyle. Well, I am all in on what I'm trying to do in my life. I'm all in moving myself from death style to lifestyle. And because I made the hard choices there, I've somehow attained the courage to chase a better life in many other ways. People think, oh, it's no big deal. You applied for a job. Who cares? But it's a big deal because you're doing something that's uncomfortable and putting yourself out there with a chance of failure. And the more times you do that, whether you succeed or you fail is irrelevant. It's the fact that you did it. Because in the end, the number of times you fail at something doesn't matter. All that matters is that the last time you succeed. That's what matters. So many people fail over and over and over again because they are failing to realize that they have to do the hard thing and walk away from the things that have held them down for so long, and they just can't see a life without those things. But I sit here and tell you there is a life, and that life is so much better than the life you live right now. But you just can't see it. It's like you're blinded by the fear that's involved in letting go. You know, God has things for us that are so great and so amazing, and He's saying, give me what you have. No matter how important you think this is, I have so much more coming. I have so much more, but your test is to let go of this thing. Let go of the fear of failure. Let go of the fear of success. Let go of the anxiety. Let go of the possibility that you might not be accepted. Just do it. Just do it and believe in yourself and give it your all. Because no matter how many times you fail, nobody's going to remember that. They're only going to remember the time you actually succeeded. But none of that ever happens if you don't bet on you. So what are you waiting for? Take action now, because the life you want is available to you, but it has to start with you betting on yourself to be able to succeed. I love each and every one of you. God bless you all.